All right, continue on with the exercise 2. Now we know our displaying of the data works. We're going to wire up the approve and the reject button so that based on what checkbox has been selected, we'll go ahead and either approve or reject these requests. So we're going to stop this. All right, so in the code behind, we have an event handler. Okay, where we have a update item. All right, so here we're going to use a quick link query to select all the checked item. All right, so this check is a function, pretty straightforward, by passing in a list view data item and take a look at the control to see if it's checked. So that's our predicate in our link query from item in list expense to items. So this will find all the item that has been checked. So we need this code to perform the update for the status. All right, so we're going to switch over to the solution project. Okay, and let's look at the update. Okay. So here is the code that we want. So let's copy and paste this section of codes. Again, to make sure you don't miss a closing curly braces, you may want to collapse this entire method. Now once this entire method is collapsed, then you can easily copy and paste that to the solution version. Okay. All right, so off it goes. Paste that. All right, so let's take a look at this code, specifically what we're doing here. Okay. All right. All right, so this method here is called by both the button reject and button approve. So in the event that this method is called by button approve, this method will be called with a true parameter. So the update item will be called with a true parameter, and same applies if you call the button reject. It's going to say update item false. Okay. Now let's take a look at the definition of this method. All right, so our string status will be approved if the Boolean parameter is true. Otherwise, the string status will return rejected. All right, so here again, here's our link query to look for the check box that has been selected. All right, so we're ready to get a reference to the current spweb object, and under web.list, okay, you remember this from the last exercise, this gives us a reference to the expenditure request list. All right, so for each item that we have found from our query, okay, you can see that these are for each item we have found in our query, we're going to loop through. All right, and the var hidden field becomes the selected item. Remember, each selected item currently represents a list item from the list view object. Now within that selected item, within each selected item, there are many controls. One of them carries the ID of hidden ID. Okay, so if you look back at the markup, okay, you'll find that there is a field called hidden ID. This is the one we're trying to identify. So this is the one we're trying to identify, hidden ID. And it's going to be a hidden field of which we can access the value. And if you recall, this hidden ID maps to the unique ID of this list item. It's going to be a GUID. It's going to be a global unique ID. All right, so we're going to call GUID.tryParse from the hidden field.value, and it contains the tryparse contains a out variable. Okay, so it will populate this GUID if possible. Otherwise, the tryparse will return false, and we will just skip to line 103. But obviously, it should parse because these are, after all, items that we retrieved from the list. So each item has a unique GUID. All right, so here we go back to the list and say, hey, here is that unique ID. Can you give me that item so I can update the column or the field in that list request status to either approved or rejected, depends on which button I click. And then here I specify item.update to persist the change. All right, so to follow through the code, you may want to set a breakpoint here. And instead of running debug without debugging, feel free to do a start debugging to see that when you click on each of these items, you can break into the debug. Now, because this is the first time you run this project in debugging mode, it's going to modify the web config to allow debugger to be to allow debuggers to attach to receive those debug information. All right, so after extended load time, this machine just finally started up the site, of course, and you can now select items to which you want to approve. All right, you can see the breakpoint now is stopped at 79, and you can step through it. And just like we described before, it's going to go through each item and update status. On the right-hand side, there's an IntelliTrace that shows you live views of all the events. So I'm going to go and click on continue and let it finish what it's doing. And you can see that this concludes the lab B.